Fight Mike here. Today we're going to be recapping the UFC 109 card headlined by Anthony Hernandez and Roman Dolidze. Starting off with the early prelim opener, we got Cody Brundage versus Eric McConaughey. I thought that Cody Brundage was going to get this one done by a decision, but he lost it by a split decision. I've seen a few people talking about online that they thought he got robbed. I don't know about that, but I don't really know if either one deserved it or did enough to win the fight. They were both super inactive throughout the rounds. They would hurt each other at different points, but they would wait basically until like the last 10 seconds to do stuff. And whilst Cody was landing some good takedowns, he wasn't really doing too much with them. There was barely any ground and pound on those takedowns. And Eric McConaughey, he was landing some good punches, but again, they were few and far between. I really don't know who I would pick to win this one. I couldn't pick a winner if I tried. Although it was a short notice fight that was put together, they both just didn't look like their best, even if they're not the most amazing fighters in the world. The fact that they had to fight in light heavyweight, they had to cut weight on a week's notice, they weren't in the best of shape. It just wasn't an amazing performance. And to be honest, I'd prefer them to make a shorter card than put something on this short notice, because neither guy could put on a good performance. And I thought that Cody Brundage could have done enough to win. So did Eric McConaughey. I'm not unhappy with the decision. Moving on to the next fight, though, we've got Gabriela Fernandez versus Julia Stoliarenko. I thought that Gabriela Fernandez was going to get this one done by a TKO, but she got it done by a decision. It was a very underwhelming fight from both of them. I'm not going to lie, this is 2 in a row. I thought that Fernandez was going to be able to do a lot more on the feet, and I thought that if Stoliarenko was going to win, her grappling would look a lot better in this fight, but neither kind of was the case. Stoliarenko's hand speed was too slow, so she wasn't able to get into the pocket and hit Fernandez with much meaningful punches, and then Fernandez was sort of just allowed to tune up Julia Stoliarenko off the back foot, sticking to body kicks, leg kicks, circling, and not really too many punches. She would sting Stoliarenko every now and then, but Stoliarenko just sort of looked too terrified to enter the pocket effectively until round 3. She wouldn't sit on her punches. She was falling short with a lot of them as well, and Gabriela was just allowed to back up the entire time and outstrike Julia throughout the entire fight. Julia shot a bunch of takedowns throughout it as well. Gabriela defended very well. And yeah, it was not an amazing performance from both. I would hope that Gabriela Fernandez, I think that this is probably just because she's had so much time off between this fight and the Wang Kong fight. That was almost a year ago from now, if not a year ago. So she'll need to get active in the cage if she wants to put on some better performances. And I think like a January turnaround would be good for her, because we've seen Wang Kong, who she beat in August last year, has already fought 3 times since then. Or 2 or 3 times since then, I'm not too sure. And won all of those fights as well, and is already ranked. And Gabriela Fernandez isn't yet. So she should follow the playbook of Wang Kong in this one. But moving on to the next fight, we've got Uros Medic versus Gilbert Urbina. I picked Uros Medic to get this one done by a TKO. He got a KO in the first round. It was a very scary start. I thought he was going to get finished early like the Punali Soriano fight last time out, because Medic dropped him very, very early into the fight. I think it was like the first exchange in the fight. But Urbina seemed to get a little bit overconfident after he got the knockdown, and he was sort of like pushing Medic a little bit too much, and Medic caught him with a straight left to like sort of reset Urbina in the fight, and then Urbina charges back in, gets caught with the exact same straight left, and gets slept out cold. Gilbert Urbina knocked out yet again. I think that this is his 3rd KO loss in the UFC. Probably will get cut after this. It's a bit of a shame. He's a fun fighter to watch, but both of these guys are glass cannons. I knew one of them was going to get the KO early in the fight, and Uros Medic is always going to be the cleaner and smarter striker out of the two of them. He's got a lot more experience. He's very experienced, and he's just a good striker overall. He's a crafty vet, and he showed it in this performance. Moving on to the next one, though, we've got Jocelyn Edwards versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I picked Jocelyn Edwards to get this one done by a decision, but I thought that it could be a fight that gets finished at any time. Both of these fighters are known to get finishes in the women's bantamweight division. But Priscilla started really fast. She was jabbing a lot early, poked the eye of Jocelyn Edwards after about a minute, And then straight after that, it was like her game plan completely went. She no longer was jabbing. She came in with some wild hooks. DC even called it that the KO was impending. It was going to happen very soon. She was just charging in with some hooks and some uppercuts and stopped moving her head and attacked relentlessly the entire rest of the fight, getting caught with a left hook, right hook, or I think it was a uppercut, left hook, right hook from from Jocelyn Edwards, dropping her straight away. And you knew that Cachoeira was out when her hands were just straight out stretched after that KO. It was a nasty KO from Jocelyn Edwards. She's a really good prospect in the women's bantamweight division. She's very powerful. She's known to get KOs, swings big hooks, and it was just in this fight, I just thought that Cachoeira was going to have a little bit better defense early on. I didn't think that she was going to get caught as early. And early on in the fight, before the eye poke, she actually looked to be working quite well. She was doing a lot more straight shots. But then the eye poke happens and she comes back out swinging straight away, which really confused me. But good performance from Jocelyn Edwards in that one. Moving on, we've got Elijah Smith versus Toshiomi Kazama. I picked Elijah Smith by a TKO, but boy, that was not how the fight I thought was going to happen. Smith landed a flying knee as Kazama shot for a takedown. Kazama rushed to the back very quickly, but sort of went a little bit too quick, and Smith was able to rush and shake him off the top and end up in top position. Kazama then just played guard for the rest of the fight and was just eating a lot of ground and pound shots from Elijah Smith. He was staying safe in parts, but Kazama was chasing leg locks, got a triangle, and when he got the triangle, he just held onto it as Elijah Smith picked him up, lifted him over his head, and just smashed him, slamming him into the ground, landing a couple of follow-ups, getting a slam KO, the first one I've seen in a couple of weeks for now, but it was a weird performance from Kazama. I know he's been training with Tatsuro Taira, and I'm sure his grappling has been getting a lot better. But I hate to see these guys grappling and going for leg locks when they're getting pounded from on top position. And they just don't look to get up at all. Like, there were many points where he could look to transition to get up, but he was just hell-bent on getting the leg lock. And then again, I know he would be rocked from all the ground and pound shots, but you're getting lifted up in the air with when you're holding onto the triangle. You got to let go of it. Weird performance from Kazama, but I get that Elijah Smith was probably going to win that fight either way. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Julius Walker versus Rafael Cuqueira. I thought it was a pretty fun fight. It was a very scrappy fight. I thought Julius Walker won maybe all three of the rounds, I thought. Maybe round 3 goes to Rafael Cuqueira, but Cuqueira caught Walker very early into the first round, but Walker clinched. It was a very worrying first round. I thought that he was going to get finished, but Walker was able to get the takedown, hump for some submissions, and dominate the rest of the round 1. He made Cuqueira look very weak. I don't know if that's just Julius Walker being a very strong guy, or Cuqueira being a little bit flimsy, especially grappling on the ground, but round 2, Walker kicked the leg out very early, got an early takedown, worked top control for almost the end of the round, but then Cuqueira got back to his feet, got caught, I think. Was that in round 2? Yeah, he got caught, dropped in round 2, and I think that was around where Walker got a little bit of ground and pound, but he just stopped at like the last second. He could have got Cuqueira out of there. Round 3, Cuqueira rocks Walker early, landed a couple of shots after that, almost finishing Walker on the feet, and then Walker then drops Cuqueira straight after, and then works onto top position, gets some heavy ground and pound, almost finishing Cuqueira, but he recovered, rocking Walker back, pulled a guillotine after the takedown as well, losing himself the round, losing himself the fight. Any chance of getting a finish, he lost doing that, but Cuqueira was just a very hesitant guy on the feet, and we knew that was going to happen coming into the fight. He's always been hesitant throughout his UFC career. We saw that in the Ibo Aslan fight and the Modestas Bukauskas fight, and Walker's very aggressive, and I was surprised that he was getting hurt that much from Cuqueira. I know that Cuqueira is a physical specimen, but we've not seen Cuqueira able to hurt people as much as he was able to hurt Julius Walker in this fight. Julius, I knew in the fight against Alonzo, was going to get hurt throughout his whole UFC career. He's really easy to get, he seems easy to chin because he doesn't, move his head as he's coming forward. He doesn't take his head off center line as he's punching. And he's a very much a marauder through and through. So coming into the top of the division, I think people are going to be able to chin him there. But it was a decent performance from him there. He definitely should not be getting a ranked opponent next, though. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Christian Leroy Duncan versus Eryk Anders. I picked CLD to get this one done by decision, but he finished Anders, which I think is quite an impressive feat, especially to finish him by KO. He's pretty tough to finish by KO. I think he's only been finished maybe once in his UFC career, if he's been finished at all. But CLD early looked very slick. He was very low hands. He was looking a little bit like Gene Silver out there, throwing a lot of counter shots. He was catching Eryk Anders with his straight right hand as well, and he was throwing a ton of kicks in this fight. And he was also feinting the spin early. He landed a good spinning back kick at one point, and he kept feinting the spin, and I knew he was going to go up top very soon. Anders landed a trip before the end of the round. CLD recovered and started working the clinch for a little bit. And then upon the separation, CLD pushed using double leg kicks and then spinning elbowed him, rocking Anders really bad. And then after that, he was able to finish Anders with punches a few seconds later. Absolutely fantastic performance from CLD. This was the exact sort of fight he needed to have. Didn't like the fouls though. The eye poke as well and the groin shot all within within a minute of each other. I know they were probably difficult to avoid, but that's not a good look to finish him after that. But all in all, it was a great performance. That's exactly what he needed to do to Eryk Anders to have a meaningful performance to the fans. Moving on to the next fight that we've got, Gene Matsumoto versus Miles Johns. This was a very close fight. The judging, I will say, was a little bit incorrect. I think that they gave Miles Johns round 2 and 3, the judge that scored him as a winner, and gave Matsumoto round 1, which I disagree with. I thought Miles Johns edged the round, but I think Miles Johns' boxing looked pretty good in this fight. Gene Matsumoto was a step ahead almost the entire time with the kicks. He was landing a lot of good leg kicks, good body kick in the first round. He had a guillotine attempt. First round, though, I still definitely edged to Miles Johns. He was landing a lot of right hands over the top. Round 2, though, Gene Matsumoto increased volume. He was landing a lot of shots in that round. A lot of misses, but he was landing tons of kicks and a lot of good teeps. Some jabs as well, a couple of straights. And he was just out-voluming Miles Johns. Round 3 was a close round, but Gene Matsumoto was still ahead in the round. He was landing still those very strong shots. He was also taking a lot of very strong punches, a few overhands from Miles Johns. I was very, very impressed with the chin of Gene Matsumoto. Johns, though, in the boxing was just way too infrequent with strikes. He needed to throw a lot more often. And although his boxing looked pretty crisp and looked more crisp than usual, he was throwing a lot more straight shots. He just needed to follow up with his combination. I think he needed to throw his straight shots and then follow up with some shots to the body afterwards. And then he would have been able to catch Matsumoto at the end of his combination, dig at the body. He was head hunting a lot in the fight as well. And Matsumoto was just very variable with his strikes. His striking looked much better than his last fight. And I'm excited to see him work his way up the division. Moving up to the next fight, though, we've got C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez versus Andre Fili. Oh, I was so worried that this was going to be the result that happened. After round 1, Christian started pretty well. He was catching Fili as Fili was retreating using the swatting left hook. And then Fili just rocks Christian and takes over the end of round 1. And round 2 is another close round, but Fili led with the boxing basically the entire round. He was just one step ahead of C-Rod the entire time. He was using his range quite well in that second round as well. C-Rod was landing a couple here and there, but he wasn't really being too effective. He would clinch here and there, and he just wasn't able to hurt Andre Fili in this fight, and he just wasn't able to land on him consistently. Round 3, both had good moments. I thought C-Rod landed the better shots between the two of them. And yeah, Andre Fili was just able to outwork him. I really was worried that this was going to happen. I knew that C-Rod, he only beats unranked prospects. And Andre Fili's 35 years old. He's not going to throw himself into a guillotine this time. I was impressed with his grappling in the third round especially. And it was just a good performance from him. I thought that C-Rod was just going to be a bit too much for him, but looking back on it, it was a good pick to pick Andre Fili for this one. Moving on, we've got Angela Hill versus Iasmin Lucindo. This was not a very fun fight. Round 1 was decently fun. Angela Hill was landing elbows, defending some early takedown attempts. I gave her the round for that one. Lucindo did start fast, and she was looking pretty good, and she was pretty fast on the feet. Good straight shots landing on Angela Hill. She was definitely faster in the boxing. And then for the rest of the fight, Lucindo was able to take apart Angela Hill, land a couple of takedowns, stall out some of the parts of the round, and just land a couple of rabbit punches and outwork Angela Hill throughout the fight. In round 3, she got the takedown on Angela Hill, camped calf guard for the entire time. And yeah, it was an alright performance from her there. I wasn't expecting her to beat Angela Hill in the wrestling in this fight, but she did, and I'm impressed with that. Moving on to the next fight, we've got Steve Erceg versus Ode Osbourne. This was not a good showing at all for Erceg, even as an Erceg fan, but he got the win as predicted. He got a decision win. I thought he was going to get a TKO with this one. For the first 90 seconds of the fight, they were both feinting at range. Ode landed a couple of counter hooks. The southpaw right hook was troubling Erceg a lot in this fight. And then Erceg just gets dropped really bad coming forward. Shot a takedown to escape the danger, but Ode was able to land some ground and pound. This was all in the first round. He reversed the position. Both of them took the back of each other in the last part of the round, but I gave round 1 easily to Ode. He hurt Erceg in the round. Erceg looked really hesitant in that round. He was feinting a lot at range, not really throwing too much in the round. But round 2, Erceg looked a little bit better. He was engaging in the grappling and the clinch earlier, not really landing that much on the feet. He really looked non-confident against Ode. Ode landed a couple of right hook counters, but he was just very few and far between. I think Erceg probably won the round just on activity and landing a couple of shots here and there, a couple of takedown attempts. It was just Ode wasn't able to do as much in that round. Round 3, Erceg was definitely the fitter fighter. He got the takedown, controlled Ode for the rest of the round. He landed some good shots at the start of the round too. And even with the rear naked choke and ground and pound, Erceg finished really well. He almost finished Ode at the end of the fight with the ground and pound from Mount. I did just still expect more from Erceg. I thought his bottom game, his ground game was going to be miles better than Ode Osbourne, and people praise Erceg's boxing a lot, but I still see that it needs a lot of work. We know Ode is a bit of a glass cannon, and Ode was landing consistently on Erceg. The counter hooks consistently have been landing on Erceg throughout all of his fights, and right hands over the top, he just can't seem to counter. Still, I'm super happy he didn't get that like Dominic Reyes type downfall. I hope he takes like an Alex Perez matchup next. He needs to work on the boxing. He needs to work on stylistic matchups like that. Perez is probably a little bit too slow at this point of his career, so it's probably a good matchup now. But decent fight between the two of them. It was quite entertaining while the fight went on. But moving on to the main event, we've got Anthony Hernandez versus Roman Dolidze. Look, this was definitely not my best prediction. I thought that Dolidze was going to be a lot better on the feet. Oh my gosh, I need to blow my nose so bad, but I have no tissues. We're going to truck on. I expected Dolidze to be a lot better on the feet. Watching Dolidze versus Vettori or Dolidze versus Anthony Smith, it kind of overinflated his striking ability to me, and I really should have seen that. Dolidze is much better of a striker than Vettori and Smith, because Vettori and Smith throw the same strikes, a 1-2 over and over again. They don't adjust in their game. So very earlier I realized that Hernandez was looking much smarter on the feet, much faster on the feet. I thought Dolidze still had the power edge, but even though Dolidze had the power, Hernandez was using his feints to draw it out, leg kicking a lot, body kicking as well, drawing out all the energy of Roman Dolidze in the fight, and he was just able to outwork Dolidze throughout all 5 rounds. Round 1 was the closest round out of all of them. Hernandez outstruck Dolidze pretty easily, making him move backwards. Dolidze looked a lot slower than Hernandez in the round. Round 2, Hernandez walked Dolidze down yet again, took a couple of shots whilst countering and leaving his hands down. He was screaming at Dolidze at points in this round. You could see Dolidze was already thinking, how is his pace going so high? He was already gassing in the fight. Hernandez was able to take down Dolidze at will. Dolidze was rolling for legs at times. Hernandez stood back up looking pretty good. But, oh, got a really itchy nose. This is really, really annoying me. I'm so sorry. But round 2, Hernandez already looking so dominant in the round, landing good ground and pound in the fight. And round 3, I think that Hernandez's point of the round was just to make Dolidze quit from fatigue. And Dolidze grabbed the fence like 3 times in the round, by the way. Hernandez was just grinding him throughout the entirety of the rest of the fight. He was holding him in cradle, making Dolidze hold his weight. Dolidze had to work his way up, and then he would get re-dragged down to the ground. And then whenever Dolidze would end up in guard, he would work his way to guard. Hernandez would just stand up. I did want to see Hernandez play inside the guard a little bit more, but that's just giving Dolidze a chance, so I do get it why he did just stand up. And Dolidze just looked spent each time. It looked like he needed to work so hard to get back to guard, just to have nothing come from it. Round 4, Hernandez keeps stinging Dolidze, got some easy takedowns. Dolidze hooked the glove as well in this round. Dolidze got back up at one point. I think Dolidze got to his guard and Hernandez made him stand back up again. And then instantly, Hernandez shot straight away yet again. Dolidze grabbed the cage, got a point deducted, and within that time, Hernandez was landing some knees against him. One of them might have been illegal, but I don't really care. Dolidze cheated throughout the fight. And then wound up dropping to the floor, and Hernandez got a standing rear naked choke on Dolidze. It was such a bully choke from Anthony Hernandez, and I can just see him being such a tough matchup for everyone in that division. He's got unlimited cardio, elite wrestling, really good striking. He mixes his martial arts very well, and he's improving so much fight to fight. I'm really curious to see who they match him up with next. He made Dolidze look silly in this fight. He absolutely did. He made him absolutely look terrible on the feet. He was way faster on the feet. The straight shots were landing so much. He looked so improved in this fight as well, on the feet especially. I know Dolidze is not the most clean striker, but he is somewhat effective. And it was impressive to see Hernandez put on this sort of performance against him. Let me know what you thought of the card. I thought it was a decent card, maybe like a 6 out of 10 for an Apex. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.